on mute. Our first speaker this evening is Alison Broinowski. Alison has been a diplomat, author, and academic researcher. She's currently on the board of World Beyond War and Australians for War Powers Reform, and she's just a tireless advocate on geopolitical issues. Alison will be discussing the US political hold on Australia. Thank you, Alison. You have the floor.
Whoop. Turn on your sound, Alison.
Alison, you just have to unmute.
Unmute, Alison.
I thought I did. Okay, now, thank you, Shirley, and thank you, Kellie, and thank you to the Anti-AUKUS Coalition for putting this together with such care and energy and getting such good support for it. It's a very important topic, of course, and as you warn, it's about a stranglehold, as you call it, of the US on Australia. And yet, there may be no US stranglehold anywhere the way things are going pretty soon. One of the shortest empires in the history of the world, if things progress the way they are. But we can't wait for that to happen. Or because we live in such a dangerous time, as you have warned. So what should Australia be doing about this? My answer is, let's admit that we, Australia, have imposed the stranglehold upon ourselves. It's not the United States' fault that we are in a stranglehold. We have done it. We've done it over many, many years. Even before Federation, we were fighting in British colonial wars. Then we fought in World War I and II, which were replicas of the same, and we could, in fact, have stayed out of both of them if we'd been smarter. After that, of course, there were American wars, which we willingly joined against communism, and then more lately against terrorism. Any of these we could have stayed out of and not been implicated in. These were wars of choice, and the current wars in the Middle East and a coming war, which may occur in China, will also be a war of choice. Australia is implicated in these wars by both our alliances, AUKUS, ANZUS first, and what is to be an alliance, AUKUS. So we and our governments have made these agreements, and we can unmake them if we move smartly and deliberately to do so. AUKUS, first of all, AUKUS will not deliver value for money for any of its partners. So it makes sense for all of us, United States, Britain, and Australia, to cut our losses in that as soon as we possibly can. I very much doubt that a second time President Trump would care if we did. ANZUS, on the other hand, could rope us into war for either real or fake reasons. Worst of all, against China. Australia, if that happened, will be the loser. So the conclusion that I reach from such a possibility is that what Australia should be doing right now is saying to our US allies well in advance that we do not intend to join any such coalition for a war against China, because while it's totally against our interests and the United States can vanish to the other side of the Pacific, we are stuck We are living here, and we are living with the consequences. So what I advise, and I've spoken with Professor Hugh White about this, who agrees, is that we ought now, in a quiet manner and well in advance, to advise the United States that if they want a coalition for war against China, Australia will not be in it. Both AUKUS and ANZUS endanger us more than they protect us, just as Malcolm Fraser said in 2014. And nothing has changed since he said that. In fact, things have got worse, haven't they? So what are our alternatives? Ever since the 1950s, at least, even if you don't want to go back to the time of federation, when we had a choice about what we were going to do with our future as a, quote, independent country. Our alternatives since the 1950s have been non-alignment, armed or unarmed neutrality, engagement with Asia, and with what is now called the Global South, instead of the alliances in which we have tied ourselves on the other side of the world, which have no interest in our well-being in our region, only in the extension of their own power here. And so the question then for us to consider this evening is, do we and our governments have the imagination and the courage to face this reality and do what I'm suggesting, make a choice between armed or unarmed neutrality and getting out from under the implications of the bases on our territory, which will tie us into a war, whether we like it or not? My answer is yes, we can break the stranglehold, as you've called it, because the stranglehold is of our own making. It's therefore for us to unmake it. Many civil society groups worked for decades, as Kellie said, to get Julian Assange out. And after most of us having despaired, it happened. We did it. The same process, even if it takes a long time, can get us out of the stranglehold we are in now, of going to war in our own region. Something we don't need, something that would be illegal, very likely, because it would be a provoked war rather than a war of self-defense. And it would save us, save Australia from a disastrous future. That's why I recommend that what we ought all now to be starting to concentrate our minds on, just as we did with getting Julian out, is armed or unarmed neutrality for Australia. Thank you.